Hello there. Oh, I have a fun one for you today. I am interviewing Kierstan, who is one of my old school audience members. She has done challenges. She's an original Academy member. She's a member of the Eat to Live family, and she has lost like 120 pounds on Eat to Live. And I wanted to share her story because I think it's always fun to hear how other people do their journey, and we can definitely always learn some things from them. I mentioned some recipes. She is giving us her favorite recipes at the end of this, and these are located in the cheat sheets on the cheat sheets page. So you just sign up for the cheat sheets at thewateringmouth.com/cheat sheets, and then you'll have access to a page which you'll be able to download Kierstan's favorite recipes from there, okay? I also wanted to mention, Kierstan and I recorded this video actually in June of 2021, but I'm releasing this podcast in October of 2021. So I wanted to let you know that real time right now, what's about to happen is we're going to have another free 5-day challenge starting November 1st. So you don't want to make sure that you sign up for that. Thewateringmouth.com/challenge. You will get on the wait list, and then come October 25th, we are going to be sending out those free 5-day Eat to Live challenges to everybody, recipes, meal plans, grocery lists, everything you need to know for 5 days of awesome Eat to Live eating. And I'm also going to be doing another 4-day live workshop to support the challenge and to support your efforts in this challenge. So make sure you sign up for that. It's going to be awesome. And right after that, we're going to be opening up the Eat to Live family again for registration. So keep your eye out. That's all of the little news and announcements for now. I want you to meet Kierstan and listen to our interview, and I will see you soon. Bye. Hi, I'm Cheri Alberts, and this is the Watering Mouth Podcast, and I'm going to teach you to eat to live, lose the weight, and love the process for good. Episode 10. Hey guys, Cheri from the Watering Mouth here. I have a very special guest today. I'm doing a special podcast and YouTube video for you this week, and I'm interviewing a Nutritarian from my audience, and her name is Kierstan. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you for being here, Kierstan.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and sharing with everybody out there.
Yeah, wonderful. So I've done interviews like this before. I really like to do them because I feel like there's some mystery to the folks who look successful. And I think there actually is no mystery. And that's why I kind of want to just talk about what we do and how we become successful and how we continue on this path and just keep going. So that's kind of the reason I do these interviews, is to help folks see that there isn't as much mystery as you might think, that we can all do this, and that probably there's a ton of tips that maybe we hadn't thought of before. So we're going to hear from Kierstan today about her journey on the Nutritarian lifestyle. So Kierstan, thank you so much. We started talking recently, just you and me, because you are a member of the Eat to Live family, and you had posted about your amazing success. So that's how we kind of know each other. But I want you to give me just a little bit more details about how did you find Eat to Live, and then how did you find me?
Sure. So I came from the typical SAD diet, all of the bad food, the standard American diet. And I've been overweight my whole life. And I just was at my doctor's office one day, and she always talks about eating a plant-based diet. And there was a flyer on the back of the door, and it was for Emily Buller, who's from Northeast Indiana, which is where I'm located. And she was coming to talk about her book. And I read about it, and I looked up her book online, and I thought I should go see her, but I wasn't quite ready for that big of a level of commitment at the time. So I ended up getting her book, which is called Starved to Obesity. And in her book, she shares her story about how she started doing Dr. Fuhrman's Eat to Live. And I loved what she had to say. And so I decided to give it a try. And right away, when I started trying it, I started looking for different types of recipes out there. And I just Googled Nutritarian and Eat to Live, and I came across the Watering Mouth, and I found you and your videos and your infectious energy and all of the awesome stuff that you gave. And I was hooked at that point. I'm kind of fangirling right now, a little bit right now, actually.
Yay. I'm fangirling right back at you. I love to have folks who've been successful with my stuff. It always makes me feel so good. So when did you find Eat to Live originally? So Emily's book was like 3 years ago, something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I discovered it probably in June or July of 2020.
Okay.
And I read it and I decided that the first Monday of August, like any good addict, of course I had to binge over the weekend, but that first Monday of August, I think it was August 3rd or 4th or something like that, I decided that I was going to go full-fledged in. And at that point, I weighed 258 pounds. I was on blood pressure medication. Even on medicine, my blood pressure was over 140, over 95 at most visits. I was eating really unhealthy. Like I said in the post that I put on the Eat to Live family, I would get a pack of cookie dough on my way to work, and that would be my breakfast. And that's just how I ate. That was, a carton of ice cream at night. And I'm not talking about a small one. And that was sort of just how I lived. And so I started in August and I went all in. And ever since that, I've really been sticking to it.
This is amazing. So you have been doing this now, just for the viewers to know, when I'm recording this, it's been just under a year. Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And in terms of results, I mean, I lost 30 pounds the first month because I was eating virtually no fruits or vegetables at all.
Yeah.
All processed food. And so I lost a lot of weight really quickly. But by the time I went in a month later for a follow-up with my doctor, my cholesterol had already dropped 70%. And
whoa.
Yeah. And she took me off my blood pressure medication at that point.
Wonderful.
My scalp psoriasis resolved within the first couple of months. My allergies got a lot better. My seasonal allergies got a lot better. My depression seemed to improve within, a month or two. And then I just kept losing weight. And as of right now, I haven't quite hit my 120 pounds, but I'm at about 118 pounds that I've lost since August.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to be like, I haven't hit my 100 yet, but then you're like, my 120, wow. Congratulations, Kierstan. And I can see the light in your face. I can see the vibrancy. And I wonder about that vibrancy right before you found the lifestyle and what that was like. How did that feel for you when you were in that place right before you found Eat to Live?
Oh, it was terrible. I mean, I battled depression my whole life. And I'm also in recovery from alcohol. I'm going to be sober. I'll be sober 9 years in just a couple weeks.
Congratulations again.
Willing, right? Yeah.
Yay. Wonderful.
So before that, I really just felt like I was just kind of going through the motions. And in fact, I think if you would have asked me, I would have said, I don't think I'm going to live past 60 because I wasn't really willing to change the way that I was eating. And so there wasn't a lot of hope. I didn't have a lot of energy. There was a ton of shame about the way that I ate, overeating, what I bought at the grocery store, people, my perception judging me. And again, just no energy whatsoever. I would have maybe one vegetable serving a day. I mean, I just wasn't eating very healthy at all. And so for me, it was the shame and the hopelessness, I think, were some of the biggest feelings that I experienced.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of us can relate with that. It doesn't matter how much weight we have to lose. We still have that shame and everything too. But certainly when you're at that place where, cookie dough and ice cream and things like that. And I remember actually the thing you said from your post in the family, and you did mention that as well, having the cookie dough for breakfast, the ice cream at night. When we're in kind of a pattern like that, it just seems to keep getting a little bit worse and a little bit worse and a little bit worse, right? And you just kind of think, oh, that's fine. I'll just have this now too. It doesn't matter, right? I recall some of my worst moments were these days where it just never ended, right? It was just, okay, now what? And now what am I going to eat? And now what am I going to eat? And nothing ever seemed to stop that. Nothing ever seemed to stop those thoughts. So you have had some amazing results. Let's talk a little bit about you first. Without the food stuff. And then we'll talk so we can give a little depth to your personality. And then we'll talk a little bit more about how you got to where you are right now. Because I know that's what everyone really wants to hear, but I want to get to know you a bit. So tell me about who you are in real life and what do you do for a living and those kinds of things.
So it's a little complicated. I'm a licensed pharmacist, but I'm actually not practicing as a pharmacist. So I teach at a college of pharmacy. And so I'm teaching full time. I am still an active licensed pharmacist, but the type of pharmacy that I practice is a little bit different than what you think of when you think of like going to the drugstore to pick up a prescription. So what I do is what we call ambulatory care pharmacy. And so I did an additional year of training after I graduated. And I worked in a doctor's office. And what the doctors would do is they would come to me and they would say, I have this patient whose blood pressure I can't control. I don't know what to do with them. Will you meet with them, find out what's going on, and make a recommendation based on what the situation is? So I actually really loved it because I got to spend a lot of time with patients, getting to know their stories, which to me is so important. And for a while, I actually lost 50 pounds back in the day, and I was actually doing some behavioral modification therapy with patients as well. So I became
interesting.
I became a certified tobacco cessation specialist, and so I help people quit smoking, and I helped people come up with some lifestyle modifications for their own health, which is so ironic because
I want to interrupt you there, because can you tell me about that irony, what that was like for you teaching patients? Did you ever think to yourself, oh, I wish I used this as well, or I wish I could, or how did you feel there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think when I started doing it, I had lost 50 pounds and had some success under my belt. And so I felt a little more confident in my skills, and I learned the skills in pharmacy school, and I went to some additional training. And so I felt like I could help patients that way, but I did always feel a little hypocritical, the fat woman giving you advice on how to change your life. And so that was really hard for me, because how are people going to take me seriously? And so there was a lot of self-judgment there. And, the imposter syndrome kind of going on as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So tell me a little bit more about your personal life. So we know sort of what you do for work. And do you have any pets? Do you have a family? What's your regular life like outside of food?
Yes, outside of food, I have 3 dogs. I am a pit bull junkie. I have 3 pit bulls. They're all girls, and they haven't barked yet, which is a Christmas miracle that's going on right now, because they usually...
We don't mind if they do. It's totally, we welcome pets over here.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. When I was teaching from home during COVID, my dogs like to look out the window. And so there's always lots of puppy butt going on while I was teaching. So it still happen. But I've got 3 dogs. I got divorced about 2 years ago-ish, something along those lines.
Okay.
So that also contributed, I think, to my journey. I had some familial relationships that were a little tough at the time too. So I was feeling a little isolated, and I was really using food a lot to cope. I know I'm not supposed to be talking about food, but other than
no, it's fine. It's gonna seep in. Please let it. Yeah.
Other than that, I live by myself, and I'm just now starting to get a little more active in terms of hobbies, but I didn't have a lot of hobbies because I stayed home and ate. So that's kind of a new area of my personality that I'm exploring as well.
Can we take a moment for that? Just take a moment, because I talk about this all the time. And this is such a huge part of the Eat to Live Academy, which is included in the Eat to Live family. Eat to Live family being the monthly group coaching membership that Kierstan is a part of, and that, has the Eat to Live Academy. But I talk so much about this. And I heard Dr. Furman talk about this in the beginning as well of my journey. Who would you be without the food stuff, right? Who would you be if food wasn't, as I was talking about before, if it wasn't that constant, what am I going to eat for lunch? And you're having lunch, and now what am I going to have for dinner, right? If there was no thought about food anymore, what could come out that you don't even know is in there? Have you started to think a little bit about what you might be interested in doing now?
Yeah, I think it's really starting to emerge a little bit. I had a lot of healing to do even when this plan first started, just because I was still really hurt from my divorce. And so I was still dealing with that a lot. And teaching during COVID was really, really hard. Teaching college students, the courses I teach were hands-on. So there was a lot of stress going on. So I would say for me, that early part of my journey was just still kind of trying to stay functional. Now that we're getting back in more post-COVID normality, I think I'm starting to see that a little bit more. It's like, I also started dating online after some of this weight loss. And so I'm going through all of that. And so it's like, wait, I could go kayaking now. Wait, I can we can go for a walk after dinner. I'm not going to be out of breath. And so just even like those things, just thinking about what are my interests? And so I haven't fully delved into that yet. I've started doing yoga a little bit. I've started meditating a little bit, and I've started enjoying some of those things. But I was just talking to my therapist today about how I'm kind of in this, we decided I'm kind of a slingshot person. When I decided that I was ready to do Eat to Live, it was 100% in, boom, I'm gone. I like hated the way that I was eating. I hated the way that I felt about myself. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I'm done. And I didn't really look back. It was the same way with alcohol. And I feel like I'm kind of starting to get there right now with other aspects of my life, because I feel like a lot of internal tension. And I think I'm getting to the point where it's like, okay, I'm ready to slingshot forward to that next part of my life where I actually live, because I don't have to think about food. I don't obsess about food. I don't eat at my feelings. And so I'm really excited about this next step.
I love that slingshot idea. That's so cool, because I feel like a lot of us have a story in our minds that there is no slingshot. It's all just trudging, right? And like, oh, I have to make the salad now, and I have to eat the salad and all that kind of stuff. And you have a thought about yourself that like, once I do something, I do it. How do you think you got that identity? How do you think you created that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think I'm a thinker. I'm a big time thinker. I overthink everything, and I feel a lot of anxiety. And I mean, like literally, I just talked about this today in therapy, so I have some fresh insight into this. But I think and 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 I stress, and then all of a sudden, it's like that tension building in the slingshot. And then all of a sudden, it's like I get tired of feeling sick and tired, and then I just want to make change. And so I don't really necessarily know where it came from, except that having been through my alcoholism, it was just like life just got too painful. And it was just like all of a sudden I realized I wasn't living. And it's just like I don't want to not live anymore. And so I did that with alcohol, and then I did this with food. And it's just sort of I don't want to hurt anymore the way that I'm hurting. And just realizing that life can be easier than I'm allowing it to be.
I love that. That's beautiful. I wanted to mention, because I know you haven't done a ton of the academy yet, but I did want to mention back to that last point, is that we have a really fun exercise in the academy. That's, and you might want to look this one up. I'm trying to think. I think it's in week 7 in the self-care section. So that's in the 3rd video of the self-care section. There's a really fun worksheet that allows you to pull out some ideas for what you might want to do for self-care in this way. And so I define self-care in a little bit different way than most people do. It's not manicures and pedicures, though it can be, but self-care is anything that sort of moves you forward, like we're talking about. Self-care is anything. So one of my favorite examples that people never think of for self-care is budgeting, or getting really good with your money, getting out of debt finally, right? These kinds of things can create so much more space in our world. Very similar to how you're talking about with eating to live, right? Creating space in your life that doesn't have to do with food, that actually, you can put that down for a while. But there is a fun worksheet in there that is, you take each 10 years of your life, or at least the first 20 years, and you break them down in 10-year increments, and you go, what was something you loved to do in that time period? So for instance, from ages 0 to 10 was something you loved to do. And one of them that's really fun is like, I used to like to make mud pies, right? I remember me and my cousin used to make mud pies at her house all the time. She had a really cool backyard with woods and everything. You would make mud pies and mud cakes and things like that. And so, well, what if you tried ceramics, right? Because ceramics is very similar to making mud pies, and that might be something you like, kind of an idea. So it's a really fun activity to sort of just pull out some stuff you haven't thought about in a long time. And maybe you can find something new that will just spark some type of an idea there for you. So that might be
I think I need to do that. And it's funny though that you mentioned the budget, because I actually did start seeing a financial coach as well in the past year, because it's just sort of like, I'm ready to clean house now. All this stuff.
That's it.
Avoided, and the stuff that was too scary and too big and too feely because I couldn't handle it. I'm starting to face all of that now, and it's freeing.
Yeah. Having that space to finally start to just open up and think, well, maybe I could start looking at my budget again. Maybe I could start doing that. And the only way that we can create that space is by putting down the ice cream and by putting down the cookie dough and having more moments to ourselves to just think and be who we are. Gosh, it's so beautiful what you've found. And I want to go back to the thing you were talking about with the slingshot too. the idea that when we have, all of us have different journeys, right? So some of us do have this sort of end of that spectrum where we might be dealing with alcoholism as well, or even drugs or other things that are quite addictive. And, we know the definition of addictive being something that interferes with our natural progression of life, right? Like, and so that's where it could be food, it could be shopping, it could be anything, but it sort of interferes. That's why I like to think of the definition of binge eating as well as being just, it's something past what a normal meal would be, right? Like you're just eating more than you need at a normal meal, not necessarily a full on binge, but just thinking about this idea of what if we could get our mindset wrapped around just having what we need and moving on, right? Like for a meal, having what we need and then moving on. And like to think about the alcohol and drug thing as well. Similarly, is there a way that we can learn to become comfortable with our own thoughts and feelings so that we don't need the substances anymore, right? Could we learn to accept our life the way it is so that we don't need those other things? Can you talk a little bit about that with your alcohol journey? Was it a 12-step program that you credit? What do you credit for getting over the alcohol in the first place?
Yeah, so I did the intensive outpatient therapy. So rather than going inpatient, I worked full time still. And you went 3 nights a week for 3 hours to a group session where you learned
Okay.
about alcohol and how it affected you and how to live without it. And so that, that support group of realizing I wasn't alone, even though in the support group, I had a different story. I was a really high functioning alcoholic and not a lot of people had that. I didn't have any legal issues or relationship issues. Nobody knew that I was drinking. I was really good at hiding it. And so nobody really had any idea. So my story wasn't the same as everybody there, but we all had the same feelings. And I think that kind of comes with food too, is the way that we handle food. We all have the same feelings, even though our story might look a little bit different, whether that be our weight, whether that be what we eat, whether that be what we accept as normal. And so for me, I did that. And then I did go into a 12-step program for a while. And then I ended up it wasn't feeling right for me. I didn't find my sense of community there. So I actually stopped going to a 12-step program several years ago. And I've been able to maintain my sobriety through, touching in with my higher power, as well as continuing with therapy and just a lot of just work and introspection and things like that. And so that's really what worked for me. But it was that point where I would come home from work, and it was the same thing with food. I would come home from work and I would put on my pajamas, and then I would immediately just start drinking. And in fact, I was eating too. I would go out and I would buy fast food. I would get an appetizer, I would get a meal, and I would get a dessert, and I would drink. Hesitant to say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it.
Say it.
Story.
It's okay.
I would drink 2 bottles of wine, and so I would sit down and I would drink. First of all, how do you drink that much fluid? Second of all, I would drink a lot of fluid.
Yeah, it's a lot of fluid.
And then I would eat all of this food, and it let me numb out, and I didn't have to feel what I was feeling, and it was my way of avoiding.
Yep.
And so for me, it was figuring out, how do I sit with my feelings? What I've been taught to run from my whole life, or what I've been conditioned to run from my whole life, because that's the only way I'm going to make it through it, is if I feel these feelings. Yeah. And so I learned how to do that without alcohol, but I started using food instead. And was using food to comfort myself and to find, I would wake up in the middle of the night and I wouldn't have anything bad to eat in my house. But I would get up and drive to the grocery store at 2:00 in the morning, and I would get a package of Oreos, and I would eat an entire package of Oreos. And that was kind of normal. I mean, it wasn't every night, but it was normal and enough that it was a part of my existence.
Yeah, for sure. And so, and we see that a lot with folks who have had, they've done studies on this as well with folks who have had, for instance, bariatric surgery, that once they get the physical inability to binge on that food anymore, they're still left with the feelings. They're still, we still have our feelings. We all have feelings. We all have, negative thoughts, and then we all have circumstances that we view as negative as well. So COVID, or job loss, or death in the family, or so-and-so said this to me and it hurt me, or whatever, right? We all have these things, and these things are never going away. They will always continue to be, it's 50-50, as we say in the academy. So they will always continue to be a part of our life. And it's learning how to sort of ride that wave, so to speak, of whatever comes our way. So this idea that, okay, you were able to give up the alcohol and you substituted alcohol with food. Now, can you tell us about August 2020? What happened and how did you get here? How did you get all the way here to almost 120 pounds lost?
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. If you could tell me, that'd be great, because I haven't quite figured it
out. Let's try to remember.
So for me, I read the book by Emily Bowler, and I just remember in that book, she tells her story. Her childhood was very similar to mine in terms of eating, Twinkies, and all of that was just sort of normal, and how I ate, and we showed love through food. And in her book, she talks about how her child got very ill, and she brought coolers with her to the hospital and was eating out of her car to do the Eat to Live. And I thought, my goodness, this woman did this when one of the toughest situations in her life was happening. And I'm thinking I can't do this when I'm single and I don't have kids and I live by myself. Like, I just sort of thought, step it up. It's time to step it up. And so I read Dr. Furman's book and I read the 6-week plan, and I just decided that I was just going to do it. And so I went through and I picked the recipes that I liked out of his 6-week plan. And I just started following those. And when I was feeling my feelings, I can't think of exactly what I did, but I think for me, I just reached a tipping point pretty quickly where my energy got so much better that I didn't have as much of a struggle as I thought I would. I mean, considering the way
I was going to say, actually, some of it probably had to do with just the feeling of well-being that starts to come over you. First of all, when you lose weight, that's fun, right? We can't gloss over the fact of like how fun that is to actually be losing weight and seeing results. And then, as you mentioned, just the feelings in our body of feeling so much more energy, feeling like we're cleaning out and things like that as well, probably really contributed to it. And it's a little bit different than alcohol, maybe, because with alcohol, it's not like you lose 100 pounds from stopping alcohol, right? But when you sort of start using the food instead, it really does, you're kind of still masking those thoughts and feelings. But at this point, when you give up the food part, you get so much benefit out of it, right? And that, I bet that probably had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, just the energy. And I think just my body getting the nutrients it was supposed to get, if you sorry, there's
one.
I'll try to hide it a little bit. So you can't
That's okay. Don't worry. No, we love animals around here. It's all good.
Love that window. I think, for me, that was the big thing. It's just like my body hadn't had nutrition in so long. And I handle like the detox pretty well. I was really, really worried about that. I will say I was very worried about how I was going to feel. And for me, I went all in. I didn't titrate up. I didn't like solely worry about like my GI tract. I didn't really tell myself I wasn't going to be successful. I didn't do that messaging. So I wasn't really, I was worried about side effects just from reading about it, but I wasn't like overly anxious about it. I would say, I think day maybe 2 or 3, pretty early on, I was eating something and I just all of a sudden got very physically ill. Like I could not eat one more bite and I got physically very disgustingly ill. And I tried to eat some soup after that. I tried to eat something a little bit easier and I couldn't. And that day I was really ill and I was like, I don't think I can do this. And then the next day I was fine and I never had any other complications from it other than that. It was just this one day where I physically got ill.
Wow. That's interesting. Dr. Furman does talk about when you first start this lifestyle, many people will experience flu-like symptoms in the first week or 2. It sounds like you got a little of your share of that one as well.
Yeah. But I didn't, it wasn't enough for me to give up on it because I think at that point, I think the big thing is that we're all looking for hope is ultimately what we're looking for, whether that be in the bottom of the bottle or whether that be in food or whether that be in, lechonado kale. I mean, we're all looking for hope. And at that point, I was convinced that I was going to find it through eating this way. And so that was enough to keep me going through any of the negative stuff that I experienced.
I love that. When you went from the way that you ate to Eat to Live, what was your kind of initial impression of it? Did you love it? Did you kind of not like it so much? What, the flavors and things like that? What was it like?
I have always loved vegetables. I've just never really made them a part of my life on a regular basis. So I really enjoyed the flavors. I was surprised at the richness of the flavors, particularly
Yeah.
just like the salad dressings and things, how fulfilling they were, and how my palate changed pretty quickly. Like, I was really nervous the first recipe that called for collards. I was like, oh heck no, I cannot do collards. I was like, this
Yeah.
can't happen. But
Yeah.
I did it, and it worked out. And and like I said, I didn't titrate up. I know some people will start with more spinach based. I went in and I was just like, kale, all right, we're
Nice.
doing it all.
Nice.
And it
Nice.
worked, and the flavor profiles were really good for me. I found a recipe early on for peanut butter chocolate and ice cream that I think saved me.
Yeah.
I had
I
that
could
every
see how
night
that
for
would
a
save you.
while.
Yeah.
So I guess I shouldn't say that I did perfectly the ferment
Sure.
plan, but for
Yeah.
several, for the first couple of weeks, I probably had that several times a week, and that kind of
So
got.
in that, so that makes me curious, that kind of a thing, right? Because for me, I wasn't I mean, I definitely was a food addict, but I didn't have the kind of extreme where when I started, I was like, I felt like I was at the end of my rope. I didn't feel like that. I made the choice because my father was sick and I wanted to do that for my health, but I didn't really have a huge motivating reason or factor in my personal life at the time, other than my father, just seeing that. But that's kind of like a secondhand thing, or, just firsthand witnessing, but not really like inside of me. So I'm curious about how you went from being an addictive food personality type to having something like that, peanut butter and ice cream, peanut butter chocolate and ice cream, was it?
Mhm.
That you kind of decided to then not have as much of. How did that happen where you decided, did you say, I'm having too much of this, I'm going to cut back, or how did that go?
I think for me, it was just I started seeing the scale go down, and that got me
Mm,
motivated to cut out
yeah.
more of the calories. And I think I also liked eating the food a little bit more too. So I started
Yes.
enjoying the flavor profile of the food even more. And so for me, I think that's really what it was. It wasn't like a conscious effort. I will say I'm battling a little bit of that right now, of I'm eating too much of something. I've been having some addictive food behavior with Skinny Pop, like ridiculous.
That popcorn. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love the brand. I am a, like I'm not hating the brand. I'm hating my
Yeah.
behavior with it. Um,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
but for me, I think it was like I started to see the weight go down, and I thought I can do this faster, and I really don't need this. I mean, it's adding some nutrition. It's not giving me the same kind of joy that I got when I ate regular ice cream.
Right.
And so it was sort of like, why am I eating this, and what is it doing for me? And it just didn't do as much for me as it used to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. And I think the answer to that question is sort of like looking inwards, really. And it's kind of what we talk about in the Eat to Live family. It's what we talk about in the academy. This idea of it is just the mindfulness of it. It's starting to, what we say, or the sort of steps through this are to become aware, first of all. So we're becoming aware of what we're doing and why we're doing it, maybe. And then we start to have like an internal dialogue about it. Why am I doing this? Is this useful for me? What could I be doing that's better, kind of a thing? And I love this idea that the beginning of the journey is fueled by the weight loss and the good feelings and all that, right? And I look at my journey, it's been over 8 years now, that it's been a lot of ups and downs. And for me, I look at my journey as having on purpose ups and downs because of the pregnancies. So I knew there was going to be at least a couple of pregnancies that would cause an upset for me, and I would have to relearn everything. And that's sort of the place that I'm in right now, over a year after having the second pregnancy. But it can be a very similar thing. Like, let's say you've been doing this for a year or two, for anyone who's listening, and suddenly something comes up in your life, right? Or I remember when I first started, after a few months, my father passed away. And so there was a real up and down there. We were on this high of, nothing could go wrong. Everything's great. Of course, my dad's sick, but he's still here, right? I'm losing weight and all that. And then bam, life hits again, right? And I hear this from so many nutritarians and so many just folks who want to eat healthy, that it's that, and then life hit. And then I fell off track and I went back to my old ways and all that. And so that's what I am most interested in. And I want to mention this because I love your journey, and I love the way that I feel like so much of what you're doing is based on the work that you've already done with the alcohol. And like you already laid this huge foundation of understanding your feelings and your thoughts, and the work that you're doing in therapy. You've already laid this really solid foundation. And so that's what really helps you. And that's why I'm saying this, because I don't want to gloss over that. That's the reason you're successful, is because of your mindset and because of what you do with your thoughts and your feelings. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I don't want to say you can't be successful if you don't look at your thoughts. But for me, I couldn't be successful if I didn't look at my thoughts. And the times when I let my focus stray from that are the times that I start to get into a little bit of trouble. Even now, there was a couple weeks in a row where I went out and got a pizza a few times, and realizing, one, why did I do it? Two, forgiving yourself for it, and three, figuring out what is my plan going forward. And I think one of the most important things that I've learned through you guys, and particularly Coach Nancy, who has just communicated this in a way that really resonated with me, was that you can choose to make maybe less than ideal choices if it's a choice versus more of that compulsion. And that, she's like, what if, I think I posted one time specifically about how I just ate a pizza and how terrible I felt about myself. And she just said, what if it was cookies. And she said, what if you are just the kind of person who chose to eat a cookie? You didn't fail. You didn't do anything wrong. You just chose to have a cookie. And I was like, wait, I can do that. I can do that. I can choose to have a cookie, and I can be
here's your permission. Yeah. Here's your permission. Yeah.
And it was just like, that was like a big game changer for me. So instead of shaming myself into, I can never eat the way my friends eat, or I can never do this or do that has been a really important thing too. I'm dating right now. And so going out to eat happens more often. And it's just, I look at the menu before I go and I determine what I'm going to have. And sometimes I do have a flatbread pizza, but I make that choice in advance. Yeah. I'm okay with it. I know what I'm doing. I pick something that's maybe not as, a hamburger and fries, but something that still is not necessarily 100% in line with where I'm hoping to be. But I'm okay with it.
But you're choosing it. Yeah. And that's such an important point, Kierstan. Thanks for bringing that up, because first of all, Coach Nancy is amazing. She's so incredible. She helps me in the Eat to Live family. She is the private coach within the Eat to Live family. And she's just offering helpful suggestions all the time. She's incredible. And and I sort of use this hand gesture. So if you're just listening to this on podcast, you have to kind of listen to my description here. I use this hand gesture all the time of, you make a fist, and this is the action that you took, either overeating or whatever. And then you can just have that fist, you can just have that action that you took, or you can cover it with your other hand, which is what I'm doing right now. And you add shame and guilt and humiliation and embarrassment. And now look, you've got a much bigger fist there. You got a much bigger issue. But if you take off that other fist, the second fist of humiliation and shame and all the extra feelings, and you say, no, I just chose that. And we take responsibility for the things that we did, instead of creating a whole story around it about how it means we're terrible people, we'll never get this, and we're just, the worst, and we're a failure, and we're not worthy, and we don't deserve the success. And we start creating this huge story about it. It's not just a flatbread pizza anymore. Now we're not even worthy of weight loss, right? We create a whole thing about it. So we talk a lot about this in the academy and in the family, about worthiness and what worthiness actually is, and how it's actually has nothing to do with what we do or don't do, that we're inherently worthy, and that worthy is just there from the get-go. And it doesn't matter what we do or don't do ever, that we will always remain worthy. And that the actions that we take are completely neutral. When we can just accept the action for what it was, and we can take responsibility for what we chose, and not in a way that's good or bad, because the action itself is completely neutral. What we did or didn't do is completely neutral. It's not good or bad. It is just a thing that happened in the, history books. It's just a thing that happened. It's what we make of it that creates our experience of it. So we had that flatbread pizza. We can say, no, I'm going to choose a flatbread pizza and I'm totally fine with that. That's what I want to do. And that's it, the end of it. We eat the pizza, we move on. Or we can be upset with ourselves over even considering the pizza. As we're having it, we can hate ourselves for eating it. Then we can be super regretful afterwards and turn it into this big dramatic, issue. Or we can just have it and move on. And that experience is what continues to shape the next meal and the next meal after that and the next meal after that. Yeah.
And I will just say to anybody out there who's listening, I can tell you I have done both of those. And I think I did those within a week, with relatively soon after starting eating this way. Well, maybe a few months in, but I did it one way and then I did it the other way. And I can just just think about it and try it, because it's amazing when you just say, you know what, tonight I want that favorite pizza and I'm going to have it. I'm going to eat a half of it. And you know what, I'm not going to beat myself up. And I did it. And it was the weirdest thing, because I was like, wait, I feel okay. And I'm not hating myself. Oh my gosh, food can not be this evil thing that is going to sentence me to death. Like, it's just a thing. And it was the most foreign thing I've ever felt in my entire life. And then I did it the other way. I love that hand over the fist, because for me, shame is what drives me to eat, for me personally.
Yes. So that's right.
I ate bad, so now I feel shame. Well, the only way I know how to shut that shame up is by putting something at it, whether that be food or alcohol for me. And so, and so if you take out that shame step, it makes the program easier. It makes eating this way easier, because you're not giving yourself that predefined reason to continue to, I hate to say misbehave, because that's not true, make decisions that are not decisions that you really want to make in good conscience. But even that is a rewiring of my brain. What I just did there, that is a rewiring that I've been working on. And it's not easy. It's an ongoing process for sure.
Yeah. And the only way to do it, as we mentioned earlier, the only way to do it is to become aware, first of all, of what's happening, to become aware of the thoughts that are occurring and aware of the feelings that are occurring. We have some very specific tools in the family that we use to open that up and to start to see that, because I think what happens so much with us is that when we have taught ourselves to overeat for years and years and years, and we have taught ourselves to overeat, but maybe even binge as well, we've taught ourselves to add alcohol or to add shopping, overspending, or any other thing that what we call buffer with. When we've taught ourselves to do this for so many years, it becomes such a pattern, and then it becomes subconscious. And it becomes completely impossible to detect until we are halfway through that bag of Doritos, or we are all the way through the Oreo package, or the pizza's on its way. And we're like, dang it, I did it again, right? But it is the awareness before, during, and after that creates all of the change. So we have lots of tools that we use and we have one in specific that we use with the scale, actually, using a scale to start to help us to work through those thoughts and feelings as well. We use this in the Eat Till It family, in the academy. So I'm just so glad to hear your take on how you did this, because you made a little comment a moment ago that you think most people, like maybe there are some people who could do it without using thoughts and mindset and things like that. But I would be interested to meet those people, because I think the folks who can do this naturally either have a really fast metabolism and they don't really have any issues with food. And food, they just don't care about food. They just naturally are that kind of person that food doesn't matter to them. But I think for folks like us, if we want to get to the place where we feel calm and peaceful and empowered about food again, that takes some thought work. It takes some introspection. And there is a difference between losing weight and hating yourself to lose weight. And there's and so there's that possibility, or there's what we're doing, which is loving ourselves the whole time enough to actually rework our brain and rewire things and try to get to that place of, because you can hate yourself and use shame and guilt and humiliation and all these negative feelings to lose the weight. And we've all probably done this to some extent. I know I've done that so many times. And then once you get there, you still feel really shameful and worried and like you're this terrible person. So that's when you gain it back, because you those feelings haven't gone away. And as you said, when we feel shamed or we feel shameful or humiliated or angry with ourselves, that's when we eat. Right. And so that is just a never ending cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful.
And I think, having to prepare for that too. Like my family is coming to visit for the first time. They were here just before I started this eating plan a year ago. I live away from my family, and my family doesn't follow this lifestyle at all.
Yeah.
And they're coming to visit for the first time. And
Wow.
they're going to be here in about a month. And I'm already thinking about what are the thoughts I have around with this. Just your own family dynamic sometimes can change the way you behave and whatever. And so I'm already having to kind of think about my thoughts and how am I going to navigate them when they're here. And I think that's something that's changed, is that I'm more anticipatory of that rather than just being reactive and waiting. Sorry for my other dog here. Waiting for it to happen. I'm anticipating that this might be a little bit of an out of my routine for me. So how am I going to best prepare for that?
Yep. Yep. And that is that before, during, and after thinking. That is so, so important to all those situations. So let's talk a little bit about practical stuff. So when you go out to eat, what are your strategies? Do you go out to eat? Oh, of course, you said you're dating now. So what are your strategies for when you go out to eat now? You said you look at the menu beforehand.
Yes, I absolutely look at the menu beforehand. Fort Wayne I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we have a pretty big vegan community here. And so a lot of restaurants have pretty good menus that you can choose from. But I had somebody, I'm not going to be judgmental, but I'm a little judgmental, who chose Applebee's for our first date.
Oh gosh, that tells you something, maybe.
I know, I should have not gone at that point. It went downhill quickly after that. But there's not a lot to choose from at an Applebee's restaurant. And I know. I actually didn't even look at advance because I knew that I wasn't good. Anyway, so I got there early, but I chose a salad, and I look at what's on there. What can I get on the side? What can I pull off of it? And so I try to think through that a little bit. Some days I make that decision where, I'm going to have chicken today. I am going to choose to have chicken on my salad today. And I do that. But a lot of times I stopped worrying so much about being that obnoxious person that people are judging for asking to have things taken off or to have extra added. I mean, I'm not totally obnoxious about it, but I'll say I don't want the candied pecans, or I'll say I want my dressing on the side. I don't want feta cheese. Like, who doesn't want feta cheese? But I'll say that. Which pains me greatly.
You mean like nutritionally, I don't want feta cheese right now. Okay?
Emotionally, give me double.
Emotionally.
But in reality, I'm going to have you skip it. And I'm usually really self-conscious about inconveniencing people and about people judging me. And I've had to set that aside when I eat out, because hello, kitty cat.
Keep going. Sorry.
That's okay. So, I've had to be okay with asking to be a little bit what I consider to be a little bit high maintenance at a restaurant. And I just have to let that go. That's a big part of it. Looking at the menu in advance. And if I can choose a restaurant, trying to have some say over where we go. For the record,
something sparked for me there when you said that, this idea of the high maintenance thing. Something sparked for me there, because I never really thought about it this way before, but like, restaurants are created by standard American dieters typically, right? So restaurant is created by someone who is not understanding eat to live at all, or not even caring to. They create restaurants so that people will buy more food. So clearly there's going to be oil and salt and things like that, right? But it makes us be high maintenance because we have to work around all of those obstacles, right? But actually what they're doing, they're making it like they are making us be high maintenance, right? Like, because all we want to do is just eat something that's going to like support our life. And all they want to do is sell more oil and sugar and salt, right? And so, the advent of the restaurant in this way, like these types of restaurants that we have, these industrialized, huge kind of restaurants that we have completely shifted what normal eating is. And we know this to some extent, but this idea that we're the ones that have to become high maintenance, but they actually made us high maintenance. So I just want to like make that point, right? Like, it's not that you're a high maintenance person. And I think like when we go to restaurants with folks like this, we like, oh, I don't want to appear high maintenance, but like, it's not our fault, right? Just like make it so we can have a salad that doesn't have a bunch of crap on it, but okay, I'm going to leave that one right there.
I think that gets to a really important point too, is that you have to retrain yourself to not say I'm high maintenance. So one of the things I'm working on right now is I call myself Kierstan because I am a queen at procrastinating. And someone just told me recently, they're like, every time you say Kierstan, you are perpetuating that idea of yourself. And so I need to learn to not say I'm being high maintenance, but we have to retrain ourselves. I am ordering food that is good for my body. And that is something that's taken me a very long time to get to the point where I can do that. And so even as I said that, I realized I need to not refer to myself that way.
And that's interesting because that's why I wanted to sort of talk a little bit about the slingshot thing in the beginning, because you have created an identity for yourself of being someone who slingshots. Now, that's a positive identity, so we'll keep that one, right? But when you create identities, we're creating this large story around I'm a procrastinator or I am a high maintenance person or whatever. And when we have a story, our brain is just looking for more confirmation of that story. That's what it does. So we're looking for more confirmation that we're a procrastinator or that we this or that or whatever. And if it's a negative story, we're just looking for more confirmation that the negativity exists, right? But even talking about it, even characterizing it with a word like procrastination, right? And so with your high maintenance thing is you flip that thought to, I'm not high maintenance. I'm just someone who cares about my health, right? I'm just someone who cares about that kind of a thing. Or I'm not a procrastinator. I'm just somebody who doesn't like the pain of doing work. But like everybody doesn't like the pain of doing work. So there's actually nothing negative there, right? So it really is just on how we think of it. Yeah.
And I think that the same thing can be said for, I'm a failure at this.
Yes.
You're not a failure at this. You're trying to undo years of training your body to eat the way you've been eating. And so that's one of the things that I would encourage people who are early on in their journey to try to, I'm feeling because I'm having a craving or whatever, but you're not. You're doing what your body has done for the past 15, 20, 30, 40 years.
That's
and
right.
You are working your butt off to go against it. Like you're not failing, you're succeeding, but it's sometimes you have to face those old patterns.
Yeah, I love the word practice in this case. It's not failing, it's practice, right? And doctors don't call themselves, it's not a medical failing, it's a medical practice, right? So they don't get it right all the time either. So tell me just a little bit about your experience with my program. So you said you've done the challenges, is that right? What have you done? And then you're also part of the family. So tell me a little bit about your experience with my stuff.
So I have been through all of the Eat to Live Academy.
Wow, nice.
Was not the best student during all of it.
It's okay. It's okay.
So I have done it all, and it's all amazing. And I'm actually getting ready to start listening to it again now that I'm a part of the family. But yeah, I have done a lot of the challenges. When you put them on sale that one year, I bought like 20 of them because I think I bought 7 or 8 of them because for me, that's actually, it's the core of my success, honestly. I'm still pretty much following recipes, even a year later. I'm making my own challenges now, but I'm still not using a lot of I don't trust myself to make my own recipes. So I'm just not. I'm just using what's there and it's working for me. If I leave myself to my own devices, I wouldn't do it. But that's not the question you asked. You asked, what of your program have I used? So yes, I've done the challenges. I have watched a lot of the what I eat in a day videos. I have watched, there's the live coaching sessions that are available. If you're a member of the family, I'm watching those. I have done the Eat to Live Academy once through where I more listened to it. And now I'm getting ready to launch in and do it a little more where I'm actually doing the work, doing more of the different activities you talk about, the thought downloads, the models, all these amazing things that everyone out there should sign up to have because they can change it. And so just the community connection through the family as well, just seeing what other people are doing has been really, really helpful for me. For me, though, I think the most beneficial thing has been the challenges or the recipes that you offer. That really has, it's changed my life. I mean, Cheri, you've been a big part of that. The reason I'm successful is because of those recipes. And I get emotional. I couldn't have done it without those and without you. And that's pretty awesome.
Oh, you're going to make me emotional. Stuff.
I know.
It's so amazing because at this point, there's, I have a good deal of people in the audience. I have a really good deal of people in the family who are, working these programs and these tools every month and just creating so much change and to meet somebody like you who there's a lot of people in my audience, I think, who are just kind of in the background and they're maybe doing the programs without telling me that they're doing the programs. And, in the beginning, like I knew everyone's name. I knew everyone who was doing everything and they would tell me everything. And now it's gotten to this really fun place where I'm creating, these programs and these programs are creating the change. Right. And so I love to see this, that it's kind of continuing to work. And your idea of going back through the academy, we've had people do the academy 3, 4, 5 times in a row. And even I go back and listen to my own videos and I'm like, hey, that was really smart. I don't remember saying that. And I learned stuff from myself again. But yeah, so I'm glad to hear that you love the challenges. And I just want to give a shout out again to Coach Nancy, because she's the recipe developer right now, of course. So, I did the first couple challenges and I couldn't keep up with the workload. And she has just jumped in and created such amazing recipes now for these challenges. They are phenomenal. So if you guys can ever look for one of the flash sales that we do, where we try to put these on sale, like Kierstan was talking about, pick some of those up and use those, and that is specifically why I created challenges, because I wanted to have people understand how I lost the weight too. And it's just these little periods of precision, getting through and just doing what you got to do and learning a lot about the lifestyle. So you said something about liking the recipes. What are your 2 favorite recipes that you use nowadays on your Eat to Live journey?
Well, I'm a big smoothie person, and so any combination of smoothies. So I don't have a specific smoothie. I just kind of throw in whatever greens I have, whatever vegetables or fruit I have, and sometimes I'll just
So you were lying when you said you don't create your own recipes.
Well, yeah, smoothies don't count for me.
So that's a story, but I just want to point out you are able to create your very own smoothies at this point. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, keep going.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes.
You're welcome.
Really good at smoothies. Smoothies I can be a little more flexible with. I'm not yet there with salads. That's tougher for me to get a good flavor profile. I guess I don't have the confidence in my ability. Although I was just thinking the other day, I'm like, I'm going to start trying my own. I think I'm getting to the point where I'm ready to start trying my own. But my favorite is the big quinoa salad. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's got quinoa. I don't know if you want me to go into the rest of the ingredients.
Yes, tell us. And I'm also going to put these recipes down below. So if you can give us one of your favorite smoothie recipes, and then we're going to put this other quinoa one down below this video. So, so if you're watching the podcast, it'll be in the show notes, or if you are watching the YouTube video, it's underneath the YouTube video. So go ahead.
So I think that right now, I just had it today, so I'm going to say this one, the anti-inflammatory smoothie. I was not a big ginger fan, but now I can actually put in the full amount of ginger. My flavor profile is changing. That's actually interesting because both of these are flavors that I didn't originally like. But the anti-inflammatory smoothie is huge and it's really, really good. And I like that. It's got pineapple in it and some ginger and greens and a banana, and it's awesome. Nice. The big quinoa salad has quinoa, beets, which I always thought tasted like dirt, and now I absolutely love. Crazy. Some magic going on here. It's also got blueberries and raspberries and green onions and a bunch of greens, of course, and a cashew-based dressing. And it is honestly the best salad I think I've ever eaten in my life. I love it. I could eat it every day. And my parents are coming, and they like I said, they don't eat this, and that's the salad I'm going to make them, because I don't know how you could not like that salad. It's so delicious.
Nice. Good deal. I'm so glad to hear that we have come up with some awesome winners for you. And there are so many other recipes out there. We even do free 5-day challenges from time to time as well. And there's a free 9-day challenge on my website. So feel free to pick that one up if you guys want to as well. That's right on the homepage. So if you're interested in what these challenges are like, and you're interested in knowing, as Kierstan said, it can be a little bit intimidating to get started, but if you just know some tried and true recipes, that can really get you going. So thank you for sharing those with us. I think that is almost everything. I just want to ask you one last question. What is your advice for people wanting to get started with this lifestyle?
Start. I mean, honestly, start. I think for me, my advice would be pick something that is doable for you and start there. I was the kind of person where I had to go from 0 to 60. That worked best for me, but I don't know that that's going to work for everybody. So I think if you read the Eat to Live book and read about how starved nutritionally our bodies are, picking one meal that is easy for you to change is a really good place to start. So for me, smoothies make the most sense,
Yeah.
just because they're a little bit lower maintenance than having to prep a lot of salad. And so if you're hesitant about that, to me, smoothies are a little bit easier. You just throw all this stuff in a blender. It's a powerhouse of nutrients, and it fills you up. And so for me, it would be just pick one change to start with. And you call this the small shifts in the program, I think, if I'm saying that
Yep.
correctly.
That's
So
right.
picking that one shift that you want to make and starting there, that's the big thing. But I think also just realizing that believe you're worth it. Believe you're worth it. Believe you're worth taking time and energy and spending a little extra money perhaps on produce, and believe that you are worth the time and effort it takes to feel better. And I'm going to get emotional because I didn't think that I was worth it. And, you know, you are worthy of feeling better than you're feeling today. And just by putting more nutrients in your body, you will feel better, and you deserve that. Everyone out there deserves that. And I wish just 10% of what I had for everyone out there, because it's powerful.
Oh, that makes me so happy to see that. Thank you for sharing your emotion with us. That is such a blessing to see that, from the perspective of someone who is really good at this, who's been doing this for a while, and showing your results with others, that it's possible to go from where you went to where you are now in such a short period of time. It's just a very hopeful message. So thank you for sharing with us, Kierstan.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So yes, thank you so much for doing this interview. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Kierstan. We will be hearing from you more in the future. Hope you love that interview. Don't forget, 5-day challenge. It's free. It's awesome. It's all recipes. So might as well just download it anyways to get the free recipes, right? Starting on November 1st, we're going to be doing it all together for 5 days of healthy nutritarian eating together, free workshop, tons of camaraderie. There's a free Facebook group that you can all hang out in and help each other out. It's just going to be awesome. So make sure you sign up at thewateringmouth.com/challenge. And remember, if you do want to get Kierstan's recipes, you just sign up for the cheat sheets. It's that easy. wateringmouth.com/cheat sheets. And you can also, on that page, you'll be able to get all of our previous PDFs for recipes and things too from our YouTube channel. So hope you love it. Hope to see you in the challenge. See you soon. Bye.